Thank you so much, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about what ShelterBox does, why we exist, how we work with Rotary, and what you can all do to get involved. I'll leave some time for questions at the end and then leave you with an impact story. Feel free to put questions in the chat, or we'll open the forum during the question period. So ShelterBox is an international disaster relief charity. We provide emergency shelter and the basic supplies that people need, not only to survive, but to recover after disasters all over the world. So why we exist. Last year, 113 million people were displaced by disaster and conflict around the world. It's approximately 3 times the entire population of Canada. And we're expecting that number to significantly grow in the coming years. At ShelterBox, we believe in a world where no one is left without shelter after disaster, and we're working to change this. So why shelter? Shelter is a basic human right. It is absolutely necessary for survival, but we know that when people lose their homes in disaster or conflict settings, having somewhere safe, having a place of your own is the first step in actually being able to recover and rebuild your lives. Shelter is the foundation which we structure our lives around. Now, ShelterBox actually started as a Rotary Club project in 2000 in England. And since then, we've grown into a professional humanitarian organization independent of Rotary, but we work very closely with Rotary in every aspect of our work. And since 2010, we've been Rotary International's project partner in disaster relief. So Rotary clubs across the world donate to ShelterBox and make our work possible. District 5360, which is Southern Alberta, is a massive supporter of ShelterBox, which is wonderful. But Rotarians are also really crucial on the ground to the work we do. They provide that vital community connection to ensure that we're working directly with communities. They provide access in areas that we might not otherwise be able to get into as outsiders. They help us provide warehouse space, translators, whatever it may be. It's that vital community connection, and so it's a really important partnership for us. ShelterBox has worked in so many countries around the world, 97 different ones, helping over 2.5 million people since 2020. So our aid comes in a few different forms. We have emergency tents. This is our standard relief tent. It can withstand 120 kilometer-hour winds, monsoon rains, up to a foot of water. And so it's a very diverse tent. This is not your Canadian Tire special that you would be using for camping here in Canada. And these tents are meant to last quite a long time. They're completely UV protected, fire retardant. And this is just one of the tents that we offer. We have a cold weather tent that can actually have a stove inside that allows us to provide tented shelter in up to -20 weather conditions. We also have a tent that has a much larger covered porch and better ventilation, which would be more appropriate in really hot tropical climates. And we also have a form of tent that looks very similar to the United Nations tents that are used in conflict zones. And those are sometimes really important to have when we need to blend in. So we never want to put vulnerable people at further risk. And sometimes we need to kind of match the standard of what other people are doing. We also know that tented shelter isn't always the best option. So we have shelter kits, and these are heavy-duty tarps, tools, and building materials that would allow someone to either repair a damaged wall or a roof of their home, or actually build a locally appropriate shelter from scratch if there's the building materials available. And our teams would provide all of the training on how best to build back better and make the use of these kits. And so having the two options make sure that we're always providing the best shelter for the situation. Just shelter is not enough though, and so we also provide the basic essentials that people need in their recovery. So this may be water purification, solar lights, cooking equipment, blankets, mosquito nets, and everything is completely customized. Every disaster is different, every community is different, and so we customize our supplies based on what that community specifically needs. And we're always trying to update what goes in our boxes as well. So we get feedback from the people that we serve, and then we find the best options available. So we're always updating those items. As I said, every community is different. ShelterBox does not operate on a one-size-fits-all model. The community has to be the heart of the response, and they need to lead the response. We just fill that short emergency phase, and so we need to make sure that the communities are communicating what they specifically need, that we're ensuring that they get what they need and the training they need to use that aid, and that they have the knowledge and the ability to lead that response after our teams are gone. And Rotary is a huge part of that. So we work directly with community leaders in every response, and we work on a train the trainer method. We train community leaders, and then they in turn train their communities, the people that are receiving the aid, to ensure that there's local knowledge after our teams are gone. Coronavirus has added a whole different element to how we work. Pre-COVID, we had teams that were always working on the ground directly with communities. And with travel restrictions, we obviously haven't been able to do that for quite some time. And so we've been working remotely with partners, doing our trainings over programs like Zoom, and Rotary has continued to be a big part of that. ShelterBox has two types of responses. So we have reactive disasters, emergency responses. This would be something like the earthquake in Haiti that happened in August, flooding, volcanoes, whatever it may be. And we are constantly assessing what's going on around the world and how we can help. And then we look at a number of different factors. We look at whether the local government, who has to be the primary responder, has asked for international assistance, whether the aid that we can provide is what people actually need, whether we have enough aid to properly assist in the response. We look at the local factors. Is there local capacity to respond? Are people being put up in hotels? Things like that. And so, you know, the resources are finite, and we try to go to the most vulnerable people around the world who wouldn't otherwise receive aid. We also have long-term conflict responses. So we have ongoing responses throughout the Syrian region, in Ethiopia for the conflict there, throughout the Lake Chad Basin, so Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria, with the Boko Haram violence there. We're working in Mozambique long-term, as well as Burkina Faso. And so these responses, people aren't getting out of emergency shelter quickly, so we need to look at better long-term solutions, but we're ensuring that people who have had to flee absolutely everything in violence and often facing famine or food insecurity have what they need to start their recovery process. There's a number of ways that people can take action with us. I encourage you to check out our website. There's a lot of information. We have a Rotary Action Toolkit that I think would be really helpful for all of you as well. And we're entirely funded by donations. And so if anybody would like to get involved, we have a lot of different community campaigns that I'd be happy to chat through with you. I'm going to pause for questions now before I leave you with an impact story. Would anybody like to ask any questions? Feel free to just unmute your mic or type in the chat. Yes, I see a hand up. Just feel free to unmute. Sorry, I'm trying to see who's. Shora? My apologies if I pronounced that wrong.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, one of the like here, I don't know what is this big black thing on the right side that was in the emergency, one of the emergency kits. You see it here?
Let me just go back here and I'll see if I can show you. The long black.
Yeah, what is that?
It's rope. It's triple bound rope that we would use to tie up tarps or to secure fastenings.
Great, thank you so much.
No problem. Any other questions?
Yes. Hi, this is Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Stephanie. I think this presentation is great. I'm a new Rotarian. I just joined on Wednesday. and I'm also 3 years Toastmasters. So my question is, from your perspective, what do you think are the 1 or 2 big ways that the Toastmasters can help with Rotary?
Yeah, that's a great question. Congratulations, welcome to the Rotary family as well. I think Rotary has so many fantastic projects around the world. I think just finding the way that you want to take action in your community, whether it's at the community level, the Canadian level, the international level, there's so many different ways to get involved, and just really showing your passion and finding a way to take action, whether that's with a partner like ShelterBox or getting involved in Polio Plus or whatever it may be. And I'm sure Martin, who's going to speak after me, will have some ideas as well.
Thank you.
Stephanie, I got a question.
Sure.
It's Marvin Henry here from Toastmasters. I'm a Toastmaster for over 20 years. My question is more about trainer. How are the different natives or countries accepting training the trainer? Are they getting trained well, or are they picking up? Are they easy to train, or hard to train, or are they finding it? Are they catching on to their skills, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we really focus. You know, the people that we're training are the experts in their community, and we don't try to fill those shoes. We have a lot of disaster relief experience, but it's really that community knowledge that's at the forefront, and we make sure that that's known in our trainings. We're not trying to come in and, you know, be the saviors. So the training is really focused specifically on our aid, how to properly use the water filters, how best to use those shelter kits. And we talk about their local knowledge, the way they would build traditional shelters, whatever it may look like, and kind of feed that in. And so I think people are really receptive. We've never really had any issues. People want to know how best to use that. They want to be able to recover. And, you know, there's obviously the element of translation in a lot of places. And so working with translators that often know the community members, we make it, you know, a very open process. And the leaders that we're training they're part of our assessment phase. They're part of the distributions. They're part of our monitoring and evaluation that we do after. And so it's very collaborative and goes quite well.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, you do have 3 questions in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Stephanie, just one question. Is your organization working in Afghanistan at this time, or not, or does it plan to?
Yeah, so we're not working in Afghanistan right now. It's a very complex operating environment. It is something that we're looking at. We've been talking to partners on the ground, but we don't currently have an active response there right now. I see a few questions about whether we work with other organizations. We do partner with many organizations on the ground. We work closely with the Red Cross on a number of our responses. We've also worked with organizations like Plan. We have been recognized as a leader in emergency shelter provision. And so we'll often partner with them on the ground in these responses, but we use our expertise as well. I want to make sure that I have time to leave you with an impact story. So I'm going to share this story, and then Dave, you can tell me if I still have a minute to ask any other questions. But I want to share this story before I leave you. This is Diane and her baby Yokimi. I took this photo while I was on deployment in Fiji after Tropical Storm Winston, which was the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. And so this would damage concrete buildings. The particular island that we were working on, called Ovalau, was slightly below sea level. And so every day when the tide came up, the ground would get a little bit swampy. And I asked Diane what it was like living through this cyclone. And she said it hit at night. They went to the community center, which was the best built building in their community. And they could hear massive trees coming down. They could hear debris flying around, and it was terrifying. And if that wasn't bad enough, then the storm surge came in, and the water was actually up to the armpits of the adults. And so they were having to hold their children above their heads for hours, waiting for that water to come down. And when it finally did and they went outside, everything in their community was gone. Their food sources, their homes, all of their belongings was completely destroyed. ShelterBox was the only organization that made it to this island. And I personally helped Diane set up her tent that you can see here and gave her her supplies in her ShelterBox. And to see the look of relief on her face, to have a safe place to sleep again, to own something and see a path to recovery is truly why I go to work every day. It's the difference that you can make with ShelterBox. Giving someone a home after they've lost everything is an incredibly valuable gift. And I'd just like to thank you all for listening, for your interest, and for your partnership with Rotary. And I hope that we can continue to work together and make a difference around the world. So thank you all so much.